lesson, talking about verb tense, aspect, voice, mood, and transitivity today. To start off, we're going to start with a little activity. Someone tell me what this first tense would be?
Past.
Past, beautiful. The next one?
Present.
All right, and the third one? Future. All right, it is future, but there is no future tense. Future tense doesn't exist, so we use modal auxiliary verbs. As you can see on the bottom with the verb play, we use the band will play tomorrow, or at 10:30 tomorrow. The verb will is one of the few auxiliary verbs, or modal auxiliary verbs, and throw that in front of the present tense of the verb, and it makes it future. Going on the next one, we've got the morphological forms of verbs. The bare infinitive, the third person, singular, the past tense, the present participle, and the past participle. Just take notice of these verbs as we're going through this lesson. As you can see, the first one, there is no ending. It's just straight up nap. The next one is just an S ending, followed by an ED, or sing versus sang. Then we've got napping with an ING. And the third one is napped with an ED or an EN difference, or another internal vowel change with sung again. All right, right now we've got a nice little video for you called Max Cat.
Give 'em. Hold, help. Swim, swam. Take 'em. Fight, fought. Bite, beaten. Hang. Oh
All right, as you can see from those, a lot of them, if you notice, the future tense, as we said earlier, doesn't exist, so there wasn't one. So they just, in that one, they didn't have the modal auxiliary verbs in front of them, but you can kind of get the idea as far as tense goes. Now, Andrew will take it over for the aspect.
So yeah, you saw with that video they had the different kinds of past tense, and it was all the irregular verbs, how the vowel changed to form the past, not just adding on an ED or a D or a T even. And so, but there, as Ian said, there was no future tense because it doesn't technically exist. And then next we have the aspect, and there's two aspects when talking about grammar, and there's the perfect and the progressive. And the perfect has to deal with when the action is completed. So he jumped, that's like he had already jumped, it's a full action, and he jumps. Those are the past and present perfect tenses. And then, but there's also the progressive tense, and that's when the action of the verb is continuous and it's ongoing. So he is jumping, he's in the process of jumping, it's going on. But you can have the perfect and the progressive in the same sentence. I believe like our book had the example, I have been loving this chapter. And you, so like loving is the progressive, but I have been is the past form. So it's a mix of the perfect and the progressive because you already have loved it, but you're going to keep loving it. So like you have been loving this chapter. And then, yeah, so the standard varieties of English marking the present and past perfect and the progressive. There is no future of this, no future aspect because, as we said, there's no formal future tense. Then we have voice. I feel like ever since I got to UD, since English 110, voice has just been drilled into my head. There's active and passive voice, and I think I've been told mainly when you're using papers to mainly use active voice, and then every now and then switch it up and use passive voice just to have it flow, have your paper flow better. And so active voice is when someone or something is performing the action, where passive voice, the action is getting performed. And so our examples here are Joe killed the bug. So Joe is performing an action, which is killing the bug. While in passive voice, the bug was killed. We don't know who killed the bug. We just know the bug was killed. Like the action was performed, but no one necessarily performed it. And I remember, like in English 294, we talked about how sometimes politicians like to use passive voice. Like they say, mistakes were made instead of I made a mistake, because they can avoid blaming themselves but still admit that there was a mistake. So there's different, just like any time in grammar, there's different times where you should use active voice and different times where you should use passive voice.
Alright, mood, as far as verbs go, does not refer to the emotional mood of the sentence. For example, I am really happy doesn't necessarily mean it's a good mood sentence. We have three different kinds of moods: the indicative, the imperative, and the subjunctive. Starting off with the indicative, as you can see, it's a sentence expressing a statement or a question. So the Grateful Dead is a band, as opposed to saying it's an awesome band, which would be kind of an opinionated thing. The Grateful Dead as a band is a solid, concrete statement. That's what it is. And is Barack Obama the president is a solid, concrete question. It requires just one answer, and the answer is yes. So if someone were to say, is Barack Obama the president, and you were to say no, then, no, that was a terrible example. They just be an idiot. But the imperative is a mood of commands. So the imperative you use bare infinitive. Sleep on the roof. Remember what we said earlier about the morphology of verbs. The bare infinitive has no ending. Sleep, finish. It's just straight up. The subjunctive is a mood of conditions, expressing opinions, wants, desires, wishes, etc. All the other good ones. So football is the best sport. Is the verb here, and the sentence is an opinionated, so it expresses opinion. I hope I get a bike for my birthday. It's an expression of desire or wish for in the future. If you had been there, you would have had a great time. Right here we're using would as one of the modal auxiliary verbs expressing a future event. And as you can see from these are more subjective, kind of like subjunctive, as opposed to the indicative, which is more just solid statements. Anyone have any questions about those? Those are pretty confusing what I was going over. Are we solid? Beautiful.
Now we have transitivity. So there's 5 different types of verbs in the English language, and 3 of them have to deal with transitivity. You have an intransitive verb, a